Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order and ask for people, if they can, to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the National Anthem. And the National Anthem is going to be sung by Dory Memorial High School student Eddie Cruz. Okay, we're going to do the pledge first.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you.
Eddie, that was beautiful. Nice job. Before we're going to ask everybody to please stand if you can, just for a moment of silence. Before we begin today's school committee meeting, I'd like to take a moment of silence for two lives that were taken too soon. This week we had the unfortunate experience of losing two valued youth, 19-year-old Randy Armando Melendez Jr. and 18-year-old Kyle Hens Billard. This is a devastating, senseless loss of two people whose lives were just beginning. The lives of both young men mattered. Both of these young men mattered. While I do not know Randy personally, it is said that he was a hardworking young man who lived in Southbridge. He was close to his family. He was behind his friend's family, who could have never imagined Randy's life would be cut short because of an argument. As a father of three, I could never imagine having my child's life cut short at such a young age. Kyle Hens Billiard has stood in this chamber after making history as a member, the only senior of the first Worcester Public School to win a Division I state championship. Kyle was settling into his freshman year at his top choice school, Salem State, hoping to study toward one day becoming a physical therapist. In times like these, there are no words for it to say. I'm devastated for the families, friends, teammates, and the other loved ones impacted by both of these tragic losses. Let us offer a moment of silence to remember Randy Armando Melendez Jr. and Kyle Hens Billiard. Thank you. Okay. Okay, the first item up for business is the consent agenda.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, I forgot the roll call. Roll call.
Member Clancy.
Here.
Member Johnson. Member Kamara.
Here.
Member Mailman.
Here.
Member McCullough.
Here.
Member O'Connell-Novick.
Here.
And Mayor Petty.
Here. The consent agenda, roll call.
Member Clancy.
Yes.
Member Johnson. Member Kamara.
Yes. Yes.
Member Mailman,
Yes.
Member McCullough,
Yes.
Member O'Connell Novick,
Yes.
and Mayor Petty.
Yes. We are on H, recognition. To congratulate the Worcester Public Schools Transportation Department, including all drivers, monitors, and staff. Okay, we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, we're going to do public comment, and first, and we'll come back to that. Anybody, just your name, city of residence, you have 2 minutes to speak, and an item appearing on the agenda. And just your name, city of residence, and item number. Is that on? We put the mic on? Okay. It should go.
Yeah? Okay,
There you
good. My name is Jonathan Hardy-Lavoie. I'm a resident of Worcester. I'm also an employee of the Worcester Public Schools. I work at North High as a behavior specialist. There's a public petition item that's on the agenda this evening, which I had asked to be put on there regarding the consideration for adapting all of the student restrooms at North High to be gender inclusive. It had come to the attention of a number of staff members who meet weekly for a health and wellness meeting that there's a significant lack of bathrooms at North High that are not gender specific, and we have a number of students who need that resource. As I'm sure many of the members here will be aware, having access to safe and comfortable bathrooms to use during the school day not only benefits students in a physical and medical way, but also impacts their behavioral and mental health. So being able to provide that resource for our students really seemed like the easiest way to alleviate that and make it easiest for all students to access bathrooms at the school. I also spoke with our principal, Dr. Sam Fanfan, and he gave me his assurance that he was 100% behind this initiative. So I'd like to start that conversation and see what we can do about providing that for our students.
Sure, thank you. Very well said.
Sorry, I'm not as tall as Mr. Hardy-Lavoie. My name is Kirsten Frazier. I live in Oakham, but I am also a teacher in the Worcester Public Schools. I am an educator at North High, and I am also the faculty advisor for the GSA. I would like to support Mr. Hardy-Lavoie's petition. I think it's vitally important that we have gender-neutral bathrooms, gender-inclusive bathrooms for all of our students. Right now, the only space that is not gender-specific really is the nurse's office, and that is problematic because of time considerations getting there, number of facilities that are available, and also it can inadvertently out students who are not ready to be outed to their peers. So for their mental health, for their physical health, because if students can't get to the bathroom and that creates all sorts of physical issues, I would really highly recommend that we look at providing gender-inclusive bathrooms for all of our students. It's a relatively small fix that would make a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on anything, or? I'm good. Seeing nobody else, we'll close this part of the agenda. We'll do the public petition to request the Worcester Public School Committee consider adopting all student bathrooms at North High to be gender inclusive. So we'll send that to Finance and Operations Committee for a hearing, and you'll be notified, and you come in and we'll figure this out, okay? All those in favor? Opposed? So ordered. Okay, we're gonna go back to H, to congratulate the Worcester Public Schools Transportation Department, including all drivers, monitors, and staff for their contributions to a successful transition to a district-oriented operated student transportation, as recognized by the Association of School Business Officials International with the 2023 Pinnacle of Achievement Award. To recognize Transportation Director John Hennessy as the 2023 recipient of the National Association of Pupil Transportation Distinguished Service Award. Mr. Allen.
That's right. It's good. All right, if I can start with the Distinguished Service Award for Mr. Hennessy.
So the Distinguished Service Award was established to recognize an individual who's performed exemplary service on behalf of the National Association of Pupil Transportation at the state and national levels. This award recognizes one person each year who exemplifies principles of high caliber leadership that will ensure the pupil transportation industry's reputation for safe, responsible, and economical services to our passengers. John is the 37th recipient of this recognition and only the second person from Massachusetts. John began his career on the public transit side of the transportation industry in Lowell as a part-time bus driver while attending college. He soon worked his way up through the ranks, becoming a starter, then a part of the office supervisory staff as a scheduler. John later moved to the Lowell Public Schools, where he served between 1988 and 2000. It was most notably responsible for addressing the district's struggles to accommodate an influx of students due to demographic shifts and a desegregation program established by the district. I got it. During his tenure, John was the co-founding member of the Massachusetts Association of Pupil Transportation in 1990 and was the organization's first president. John was elected president 2 more times and also served as vice president and a regional director. While John is no longer on the MAPT board, he is often consulted by colleagues across the state for his unbelievable knowledge base and thoughtful attention to every detail, which makes him an extraordinary leader, mentor, and colleagues to others in the field. John has been with the Worcester Public Schools since 2000, and most recently has led the day-to-day team to oversaw the conversion of primarily contracted student transportation services to a full district-operated model during the 22-23 school year. In 2019, John Hennessy was named the Administrator of the Year by School Bus Fleet magazine. For those who know us and work with John can attest that he's most deserving of this Distinguished Service Award for his contributions to student transportation, particularly in Worcester. For those who don't know, John will retire from Worcester Public Schools on December 31st, 2023. Author and speaker Jim Rohn says, quote, "All good people must take the responsibility to create legacies that will take the next generation to a level we can only imagine. What a legacy you have created here in Worcester." Congratulations on this award, and we wish him the very best on his upcoming retirement to Florida.
I'd just like to, Mr. Hennessy, thank you for your service, and good luck in your retirement. It's nice to go on a high note. You've put a lot of time to get us where we were. Remember the bad days. It's nice to go out on the good days, and a lot of it's because of you and your staff and the people in there here. Oh, this is the whole team here? Doing a great job, by the way. Looking good. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is one of the best years, from my perspective. I get 0 complaints. We're doing good. So thank you. Good luck and everything. Congratulations. Thank you. Yep. Tracy? Yeah. Well, was Brian doing the next one too? Okay.
After years in multiple
The sound's not streaming? Did you hear that? Oh.
After years and multiple contracts of double-digit price increases and declining customer service, the school committee requested the district explore the feasibility of bringing all student transportation in-house. We convened weekly meetings between 2017 and 2021, studying, visiting, analyzing, and developing a plan. In 2018, we began a small pilot of transportation by taking on 14 big buses and ultimately all routes in 2022. The school committee made this decision in late 2021 to bring all of the transportation in-house because they had trust and confidence and a big leap of faith in the work and analysis by the administrative team from finance and operations to make this a successful operation. Despite worsening driver shortages and supply chain issues for vehicles, we overcame all of these obstacles, and the switch has been extremely successful and has resulted in an annual savings of $3.5 million, increased driver pay and benefits, improved customer service, provided more funds allocated to schools for supplies and materials, and a collective sense of accomplishment and support by everyone from the transportation team to the school committee.
The child care.
Mr. Chairman, the Pinnacle Award from the Association of School Business Officials recognized school districts combine experience with creativity to solve problems facing 21st century school districts. Worcester Public Schools were awarded the 2023 Pinnacle of Achievement Award for the move to district-operated student transportation. There are many people in this room who can share in the success of this achievement. As I just said on video, the school committee had the vision and a bit of a leap of faith to do something very common in other parts of the country, but not very common in New England. The superintendent, district leaders, and school principals and parents not only provide unwavering support, but extend grace as we build upon the number of drivers to pre-COVID levels of routes that we provide to schools. The transportation supervisory team, John and Mike, and the supervisors, trainers, routers, mechanics, and liaisons, all working very hard every day behind the scenes, nights and weekends and vacation periods to train drivers, cover routes, keep the buses working, and respond to schools and parents. But perhaps most importantly, the drivers and the bus monitors that are on the streets early in the morning and late in the afternoon to safely get students to and from school every day. We often say about half of our students that the driver and monitor are the first people in the morning to greet our students and the last one before they get off for home. The school bus ride can set the experience for the student for the rest of the day. In Worcester, it's even more important than that. Our school buses remove barriers to access to attend a technical program or innovation pathways program, or a fine arts program, or a dual language school, or attend early college programs at Worcester State or QCC. Removing these barriers creates the opportunities for our students to go from here anywhere. The Pinnacle of Achievement Award is based on the collective efforts of everyone in this room. Steve Jobs said, "Great things in business are done not by one person, they're done by a team of people." We are doing great things in Worcester because of the great transportation team.
Why don't you all come up and grab it? Why don't you come up, take a bow? Come on up. Yeah, you can come too. What's that? Oh, Tracy, member Novick?
Yep.
Wait till everybody comes in.
Yeah.
Congratulations, nice job.
Yes. Tell me you gotta move in.
Come on, this side.
So,
Mr. de novo, Monique.
What's that?
can. Yeah, can I?
Stay right here, no move.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Member Novick?
Thank you. Yep. Yeah, I did want to just say a few things about this. I was asked when it was announced, is this one of those awards, right? Is this one of those awards that they just sort of give to anyone? And I think it's important to realize that ASBO doesn't give their awards to just anyone. The Pinnacle Award says that it celebrates original solutions that maximize resources and enhance student achievement. And no one's going to look at maximizing resources more critically than school business officials. As much as that was what was being celebrated, of course, all we were trying to do was get our students to school on time, which seemed close to impossible for a period of time. And I think it's really important as we stand here today with a better functioning transportation system than we had 5 years ago, a better relationship with our drivers than we had then, with the ability to cover field trip and club transportation, which is not something, honestly, that I even dreamed of, to remember how big of a chance that we took. We were told that we couldn't do it. We were told that we weren't a transportation company. We were told that we'd be distracting from the academic work of the district. And we were told that it would be more expensive. And in the end, Mr. Chair, and I think this is important to emphasize, the school committee had to vote against the recommendation of the then superintendent or to move transportation in-house. But we did so. Member McCullough, who I think got more messages from me when I was off the committee than she possibly could have dreamed of. Member Clancy, who joined the committee as the strongest advocate because she was sitting there wondering where her kindergartner was. You, Mr. Chair, who ensured that no one was left behind. And I also want to mention our former colleague, Mr. Foley, tonight, who, Member Mailman, will have an opportunity to vote into life membership of the Massachusetts Association of School Committee at next week's Delegate Assembly. Because as was noted in the video, we had trust and confidence in the big leap of faith in the work and analysis by the administrative team from Finance and Operations. That's something that's earned over years. I was asked more than once as I went across the state, as we were starting a new year with a new superintendent, how I knew it would work. And the answer was not only that I had for years trusted the drivers who were driving buses that said Worcester Public Schools, regardless of who ran them, in all sorts of weather and conditions to get my children to and from school. But I had also seen Mr. Hennessy for years wrestle clarity out of the spaghetti of Worcester's hills and valleys and the thousands of variables that are in our routing, and that all of us here for years have witnessed Mr. Allen somehow keep a system running that we know from state was $100 million short in funding. The vote that we took is about trust that was earned from integrity. And tonight's about that shared sense of accomplishment, Mr. Chair, because this is everyone's success. Were it not for our drivers and monitors, this wouldn't be possible. As Mr. Allen mentioned, the grace that was granted by our families was part of the success. And all of the rest to train and route and repair and inspect has made us to continue to improve. We should also thank the superintendent, who of course was the one who took the leap of faith with us, even as she was moving here and taking the leap of faith in general. And while we know we have more work to do, it's important to celebrate our successes. So I hope, Mr. Chair, that while we know that districts across the state and even across the country are learning from our example in terms of the transportation, I hope that we as a district and as a committee take from this that trust is earned and that integrity matters and that courage and leadership is necessary to move our district forward. Thank you.
Would you guys come up and get picture notes?
You got the clock. Everybody's got a clock up here now.
What's that?
Everybody's got a clock up here now.
Is everybody in?
Thank you.
That one has to work. We're going to take a 5-minute adjournment. We'll be back in 5 minutes. We'll start with the superintendent's report. Here to Anywhere Together, curriculum and instruction, Q teams in action. All right.
Okay.
One-
Through the chair. So thank you for this opportunity this evening. We are really excited to share the work that we launched this school year in our quadrants, where we reorganized our existing coaches from a variety of departments that kind of lived, if you will, at the district office, and put them into what we fondly call Q teams, which are for quadrant teams. And the role of the Q team is to be a direct support to our schools in the quadrants that they are assigned to. And it's been a very short amount of time. We're, as you know, only in November, so just a couple of months in action with our Q teams. But it is when I visit schools and I kind of run into Q team members as I'm there, it's very heartwarming to know that our schools have a direct line of support. I want to commend not only the Q team members that we have that you'll hear from tonight, but also the executive directors who took this ask and this vision that I had and have put it into action in such a short amount of time and have owned it, have developed these teams to be very cohesive already. And I can only imagine where we're going to go from here. So we're going to give you a little snapshot into what's been going on this year as it relates to our Q teams and the curriculum instruction and assessment work. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Will Foley, Executive Director for our Berg Coat Quadrant.
Thank you. This evening, along with my fellow executive directors, it's our pleasure to introduce you to the new quadrant support team structure, which we are referring to as Q teams. In an effort to explain the manner in which these teams operate, we will be discussing the theory behind the Q teams, the goals we have established for these Q teams, the manner in which the work of the Q teams is structured and tracked, and will provide you the opportunity to hear directly from Q team members and principals about the impact of their work on our schools and with our students and teachers. So what are Q teams? Q teams are quadrant support teams that are comprehensive groups of skilled individuals from multiple departments whose goal is to provide efficient and consistent support to students and schools that are organized by district quadrants. Why Q teams? Our Q team theory of action states that we believe if Q teams are organized through cross-department, team-based structure, and Q teams provide efficient, aligned, coherent, and consistent support to all schools, then there will be collective accountability and equitable support to all schools. These interdisciplinary teams of specialists will work with all schools to create systems and structures that meet the needs of all students attending future-focused schools. The role of the Q team is to provide coaching, modeling, mentoring, and guidance to their identified schools. This approach helps the district strategically allocate resources and expertise where needed most, ensuring that schools strive for improvement. By dividing teams across the city, the district can address localized needs efficiently and collaboratively, ultimately enhancing the overall educational experience of all students. The makeup of the Q teams. Q teams are made up of professionals from each of the following district departments. Each Q team has an executive director, members from special education, including a supervisor, a department head, and 2 focused instructional coaches. From the multilingual education department, there is a supervisor and 2 focused instructional coaches. Educational technology has 2 focused instructional coaches on each Q team. The Culture and Climate Division also has 2 focused instructional coaches on each team. The Office of Curriculum and Professional Learning contributes an integrated focused instructional coach to each team. Additionally, the Office of Research and Accountability provides us with the support of one of their data specialists as a liaison to each of the Q teams.
Good evening. Hi, everybody. Ellen Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of the Doherty Quadrant. Our goal for the Q Team work is to improve coaching and support to all our schools and programs. We believe we can accomplish this through establishing a shared and cohesive instructional framework, delivering ongoing and frequent support to all staff and students, and utilizing the expertise and capability of all our departments and ensuring collective accountability. As you will see in the following slides, and by hearing from our Q Team members, our work has been extensive. We believe that the Q Team model of coaching and supporting schools will have a great impact on our district priorities of students reading on grade level, increasing student engagement, and future-ready schools. We also believe that with this consistency of coaching and support in all our schools, that our Q Teams will be a great lever of success in ensuring Worcester Public Schools is a future-ready school system and not a system of schools.
Good evening. Tim Sipple, Executive Director for the South Quadrant. Great to be with you this evening. In this graphic, you'll see the cycle of coaching for impact. Around the outside are the various attributes of our vision of a learner that you're more and more familiar with: empowered individual, effective communicator, curious learner, problem solver, engaged community member. And in the center of this circle, you see the continuous improvement cycle, which also, there are different versions of it, but this one has 5 different steps where a team will identify and clarify what they're wanting to achieve, come up with strategies to meet that objective, plan how to execute that, actually implement what they're doing, and iterate, meaning they try, they adjust, they try, they adjust, and then finally to evaluate and see whether it all worked and determine how to start the cycle again. And that's all been happening. The Q Team is in this ring, it functions in these 4 different areas. First of all, we've got, as you'll hear tonight, and they're just representatives of some 45 plus folks from all these different departments who are working in quadrant-based teams. We've got tremendous expertise represented. These are seasoned, experienced educators who also have great emotional intelligence, perseverance. They've been very adaptable in this new model and have really, they also have a lot of credibility with their colleagues, both within their departments and in schools. They've worked very hard to quickly build trusting relationships with school leaders, with teachers, with instructional coaches at each of the buildings. In some cases, folks have worked in those quadrants or in those buildings previously, and they've been able to support one another in leveraging those relationships for those who are new to this kind of work. And in many other cases, they're new to this altogether. And the relationships they've been building quickly have been very, very, very important and very strong. As they're working across all of these schools, they're seeing, wow, this grade level has figured out this way to approach the new reading program. This department at this high school has a very innovative way to teach this concept in biology. And they're able to share those ideas across schools, across quadrants, within the departments and within our quadrant teams to accelerate the pace of innovation across schools. And as Mr. Foley mentioned, we have liaisons with our Research and Accountability Office, and they're able to support us to provide in-time data to support the work on an ongoing basis. This is a couple of slides just to show you behind the curtain, the nuts and bolts of how we get all this done. Every Friday afternoon, we meet each Q team separately. Either in a different, I'm sorry, this is the last slide of the data tracking that we moved to the front. So didn't mean to disorient you there. But this is an online forum where the executive director and all of the members of the Q team identify, first of all, where their home base is, because everybody has a home base in a school building, except for the executive directors. We're housed at Director and Administration Building. And then for each day of the week, there's a drop down where they indicate where they're planning to be the coming week. And during that Friday afternoon meeting, we're strategizing, you know what, I think we need some more support at this school. We have a professional learning community at this high school that's working on a certain project, and they could use some additional support from the multilingual team. And those adjustments are made before we go into the next week. And then as the week goes on, each time a Q team member does provide service or provide support at a school, they submit an online response form. And we could show you what that looks like, but if you've seen a Google form, it looks like a Google form. And they select their name, their quadrant, the school where they provided the service, and then a brief description of what they did and how it went and what the next steps are. And that has proved really, really useful for a variety of purposes. So first of all, each quadrant, we have the report, the form provides a report where we can see detailed accounting of what each QT member has been doing across each school that week. And then also by department, the department directors can see what their staff across the Q teams have been doing district-wide. And then our ed tech folks, who are super awesome, also put together this nifty support dashboard. So for us folks who are less comfortable with spreadsheets or need to see things more at a glance, we can see at a glance where the support is being provided in each quadrant, which schools have been getting more support, does that align with the needs as we understand them, and et cetera. And this is available to district leaders, to the executive directors, and also to the directors within the departments, which has been very, very useful. And it's been encouraging for the Q team members to see where all of their work has been directed and how it's been received. And now we have a special treat. We have several individuals here who have agreed on a Thursday evening to come and share some testimonials of what they've been doing, and also the work that they've benefited from in their experience with Q teams, again, during these initial 3 months of the school year. And first, for that purpose, we're going to invite up the principal of Worcester Technical High School, Drew Weymouth.
Good now? Okay, thank you. Thanks for inviting me tonight. I just want to give a little bit of perspective from the principal standpoint, really specifically as it relates to Worcester Tech on how we've utilized the Q teams and the benefit of them. And I think I looked at it from two different lenses. First, from the district lens and the advantage that a Q team has on a district level, where there's a vertical teaming of schools within the district, and accountability and support to an executive director. I think that leads to clarity in both decision making and direction for the school district as it relates to that quadrant. And then from the school standpoint, it's tremendous to have a direct support person in the areas of their expertise and have them be accountable specifically to your school. I know they're accountable to other schools as well, but I feel incredible response from the support people that we reach out to. And as Dr. Sipple said, they've worked really hard to establish a relationship with all of the members of our building so that there are common sites in our building and feel comfortable coming in, going into classrooms, and interacting with all of our staff. Additionally, it helps keep district goals on the forefront of all of our minds as it relates to the school goals that we've established for ourselves. And so we've definitely seen that. And just a couple of examples on the technology side, we've gotten help setting up our parents with with the campus app so that there's more accessibility to their students' performance and their teachers' information. On the special education side, we've benefited from guiding practice around behavior plan intervention on both the programmatic and individual level, assessment training they've provided for us, and I just met with a bunch of them yesterday. They're going to provide some professional development for us moving forward. Looking at our instructional goals, the instructional coaches are in the classrooms a ton. We've done a lot of walkthroughs. We get a great perspective from our instructional coaches because they have been in a number of different schools and we're able to benefit from their experience in other schools as it relates to what they're seeing in our own. And again, keeping that lens of the district secondary goal of engagement as it relates to the school goals that we've set as priorities for ourselves. And we just had our Dean of Students go visit Burncoat today because we want to learn from some of the practices that are happening at Burncoat and see how we can better implement those at Worcester Tech. So those are just a couple examples from our perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Next, we have Principal Lisa Kerrigan, who's the principal at Columbus Park, and a teacher from Columbus Park, Amanda Krull.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, Dr. Sippel, for inviting me. I'm speaking on behalf of Columbus Park, South Quadrant, proud principal and a lead learner at the school. And I just want to say that we started with the superintendent's vision of how we actually want to utilize the Q team this school year. And as a new principal, it's my second year, how I can use this support to help build school growth and really kind of lead this school into a new, really a whole new year building on technology, our ESL, our new CKL curriculum, our tier, social emotional. As you can see, there's a lot that encompassed on being in a school. And with the skill sets of each Q team member, they've been able to utilize that to tap into different areas within our school. So some examples have been our technology. We are looking at an old building and how we can really enhance that school with the funds that we have and how to creatively not project on the wall anymore, and where we should project and where we should move, and where our students best see things in the rooms that we might not see. So as a principal, it's hard to manage all those things, and having that expertise of technology from the Q team has helped us. I also worked closely with the ESL department because it's part of the Columbus Park School Growth Plan to improve grade level reading by the end of third grade, and a lot of our ESL students are students that need support. So my background, however, is not in any expertise of an ESL, so I've been using the supervisor to come to PLCs, listen to staff. They're in our buildings in an invasive way where they're not feeling that it's just somebody else walking around with a suit coat or somebody. They're becoming part of our school, part of our culture. Right away in August, when I had my first meeting with staff, I told them it's going to be part of an action step for us, that I need to be working with them to help improve things at our school, and it's not a job of one person to do, it's a team. And the superintendent has clearly stated that to all of us at every principal meeting. We also are using a lot of the social emotional supports. Again, that's not my area of expertise, but they're helping us with culture climate, some tier 1, some tier 2, looking at our kindergarten classrooms differently. It's a real new vision for myself of how we can think out of the box to help 4 or 5-year-olds manage what we're asking them to do without actually ever been to school. And that is a new area for a lot of us as educators. Being an educator of kindergarten a long time, we're seeing those rooms a little challenging and looking a little different. And how can we meet the needs of our learners and make the best decisions for our students? We've also used with new teachers because, again, they are coming into a area that might be a little different from where they're coming from. So that's why I brought a teacher with us, because firsthand she has been not only with a mentor, but she's actually worked with a Q team member, how to set up her room with room arrangement, how to meet the best needs of her students, who's in her classroom, and getting another picture of how she could need support. So Mrs. Krull is a primary teacher in our building, working with some students who are amazing, and she's going to speak about her work with the Q team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Krull, and I am a primary educator at Columbus Park. I am new to the city of Worcester, and I'm very excited with my journey so far. I've worked with different members of the South Quadrant Q team in my classroom. We've talked about, as Mrs. Kerrigan previously stated, things such as tiered instruction and looking at the new CKLA curriculum and how to best do that in putting it into centers and best reaching my students. I've also worked with them in different tiers direction for different parts of my classroom on how it looks and how to best use what's available in my classroom to make my students the best possible learners they are. They've come and sat with us on PLCs, and they have really uplifted the conversations as well. They find the teacher strengths, mine and other colleagues I've seen work with them, and then they help us find and critique us to be better at what we're already doing. And it's been really helpful so far thus this year. So thanks for having me come speak upon Columbus Park.
Great. Now I'm going to invite two of our integrated coaches up, one from the Doherty Quadrant, Gina Creamer, and from the North Quadrant, Colleen Santon.
We can't get enough of each other.
This is a good side effect of this quadrant team. So thank you so much for having us. I'm Colleen. This is Gina, and we are the integrated coaches. I think a lot of what we have experienced thus far has been shared by our executive directors. Really, one of the ultimate goals in what we are doing is working with building-based leaders, working with educators, and working with the building coaches to really champion the vision of a learner and the instructional framework, really pointing out why these guiding documents are so valuable. The work, the effort, the energy that's gone into them is work that we have been doing in schools in a variety of ways for the last several years, and there's a new vision and a new positivity attached to a lot of that. So I think really what we want to do is make sure that we're elevating the Tier 1 instruction, the primary, just good instruction for all learners, utilizing the resources that we have on our Q team, not so much as reactive responses to learners, but using their expertise to build classrooms that support all first. And I've had a really great experience. Even across Q teams, we have a lot of buddies, so it's nice to work together in such a supportive environment where we are challenged to push each other.
I think what's unique about our role is integrated. When I first started going into schools, that was the first question I was asked. What is integrated? And I think what's unique about our role is that we can go in, and when we sit and we're talking about, equitable, rigorous, and engaging curriculum that's standards aligned, there are other things that come into play that helping kids be successful. So while we might be listening, yes, we might have some insight on curriculum, but then we can refer to one of our other Q team members where we can then say this, we could also offer some other support based off what we're hearing that could really, raise the engagement, helping students, in a more holistic approach. So I think that that's what I enjoy the most about my job, is being able to sort of refer all the other great people that we work with.
And for me, too, just to wrap it up, communication has been something that I've strived to improve here for a long time. It's something that I think that we all kind of feel we have great questions, we know there are great people to access, but the communication sometimes takes too long. And this way we have somebody on our own team, we get the response almost before we even ask the question, and if we don't have the answer, we go to the next Q team or to the executive directors, and it's really just helped to bridge a gap that was definitely there before that doesn't seem to be.
Yes.
So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. 4 more folks, just 4 more. But from the multilingual department, we have Ashley McPartland, who is a multilingual coach for the Burncoat Quadrant.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. So as Dr. Sippel said, I am one of the multilingual education coaches on the Burncoat Quadrant team. One of the most significant positive impacts of the Burncoat Quadrant team on my work as an MLE coach has been the enhanced interdepartmental collaboration. Having the expertise of team members from other departments has helped identify trends and areas of improvement that directly impact multilingual learners across the quadrant. We've collaborated with school administrators and special education coaches to problem solve issues of equity and scheduling for dually identified students. EdTech works with us closely to create platforms for district-wide assessment and to analyze and disseminate data that informs instruction for our multilingual learners. Our Q team colleague from OCPL collaborates with us to support MLE teachers using new curriculum and through professional development communities. One other really significant impact of the Burncoat Q team has had on my work with multilingual learners is increasing opportunities to work with school-based leadership. Collaborating in this way has helped us leverage existing structures and resources that are already in place and finding effective and efficient ways to support our schools and increasing students' progress in language development. It's also aided us in co-creating some professional development that meets the specific needs of educators working with multilingual learners in our quadrant. So this type of collaboration with the Q team that the Q team brings forth is really helping us as MLE coaches to ensure that our efforts are aligned with individual school goals as well as quadrant and district priorities that will lead us to more impactful support for our multilingual learners and educators. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Special Education Supervisor from the North Quadrant, Jess Adamovich.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here tonight. I am the Supervisor of Special Education in the North Quadrant. Prior to that, I was in special education as a department head and a BIC team member, and Dr. Morse continuously would say, you know, we need to work smarter, not harder, and I think these Q teams have really done that. At the heart of all of our work in special education is to keep students in their least restrictive environment. And even prior to that, we need to have really good Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions. So our job will get easier and smarter with really solid Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions. And then, in turn, my students that we educate with disabilities, with IEPs, will remain in a least restrictive environment. That's our common goal. I want to say it didn't come without apprehension at first. Change is hard. Even for adults, change is hard. But within the first week or two, you know, within the first week, we were off the ground running. And within the first 2 weeks, we could see progress. I want to give an example for a school that I have worked in for many years. And we had a student had new immigrant to the city of Worcester, to the United States, with limited school exposure, with any structure, routine. Formal schools was exhibiting social, emotional, behavioral, multi-language concerns, and very swiftly, we were able to get our social emotional team in, my academic coach, myself. I'm a BCBA by trade, or by education. And we were able to get in the classroom, observe the student, work with the student, each of us, and then meet with the school-based team very swiftly. Not in 2 weeks, it was within 24 hours because we are so connected. And so with the school-based team, we made a collaborative approach to solve that student's problem, and she's still in the classroom that she started. So for me, that's success. I want to say we are a work in progress, but our progress is coming through the work that we're doing for our students. So I'm really happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Eddie Chen is the Ed Tech coach for the Burncoat Quadrant.
Hi, my name is Eddie Chen. I'm an Ed Tech coach in the Office of Educational Technology and support the Burncoat Quadrant Q team. Our department has been working within Quadrant since last school year. We work to build relationships through our projects, add capacity in others' tech skills, and learn ways we can contribute and support educators. Just knowing who to go to for help on our Q team has been useful and has saved time. Similarly, having a designated contact in a school building has had a positive impact in improving communications, like others have said. Through the structure of the Q teams, I've been able to collaborate with the multilingual education department in support of their common assessment development on EdSite. Additionally, we have worked with the SEL members of the Q team on digital dashboards that support clinicians' work. We've started meeting with the integrated coaches to create PD that builds an understanding of the district's vision of a learner. Similarly, we've been finding and testing novel ways to utilize AI in support of our educators' work to develop future-ready skills with our students. I'm looking forward to further collaborations from our team and working towards the rollout of the Spark Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. And last but not least, from the South Quadrant, Culture and Climate Coach Jill Lefebvre.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight. Really excited to be here. So just a brief background. This is my first year out of the classroom. I was a special ed teacher for 18 years. And I made the transition because I was looking to learn more and grow my skill sets and be a mentor and a teacher leader within the district. And this Q team is really the platform that's allowed me to do so on many levels. So to start off, I've just started a PD module, 3 module with at Canterbury Elementary alongside a multilingual specialist, SPED-focused instructional coach, and culture and climate coach. So to be able to develop a professional development for paraprofessionals within a school, being able to tie in different lenses, it feels more comprehensive. So it's not just streamlined. We're coming together to tap into all the needs, all the various needs that our students have. Being a part of the Q team meetings on Fridays, I have to say, being a part of those meetings where our executive directors provide leadership tools. We really work on outward thinking so we could be a more effective coach and collaborator when working with others, because working with people, we really have to have an in-depth knowledge of the various types of personalities and how to work in situations where there are stressors and where there are challenges. So those meetings prove to be effective and you can carry them back. They're also that place where, when we talk about learning more, you are surrounded by other disciplines. So, if I'm talking to the ed tech person and they have a problem that's surrounding WEA-TV, I'm in on that. So then if I go into a school and talk to a school and they have that issue, again, that streamlined communication has just helped expedite the process and making things more effective. As a coach, I've also had the opportunity to be able to help establish the school-based culture and climate teams, where we're really working to develop the environment where there's a sense of belonging for everybody. So it's really a great opportunity to be a part of those. And then I've had the opportunity to model implementation of restorative practices in schools, where we're really strengthening the social emotional learning, because we need that strong foundation, because in order to learn, we have to be emotionally ready. So that has been a great opportunity. And lastly, I have to say, providing the coaching for educators to help them feel supported. I think this day and age, we all need to recognize that we need to be there for our teachers so that we can support them and help them to grow. In my opinion, this type of collaboration, it really maximizes our potential for growth and learning in all areas of education. So thank you for having me. Have a good night.
Thank you.
And so that concludes our presentation. I want to thank you for your patience and giving everyone a chance to speak. A lot of exciting work happening, and as someone said, it's a work in progress, but we are making a lot of progress through our work. And want to yield the floor to you, Chair, for the Superintendent.
Madam Superintendent.
Yes, so thank you. I'm sitting up here and I'm filled with a mix of emotions, kind of borderline wanting to cry from happiness, because again, we're so new into this, and to hear what you're saying is exactly what we know research says will make a difference for our children. And so whether we're talking about John Hattie and the meta-analysis that he's done twice now about the power of collective efficacy on student achievement. So sometimes we forget that it is the adults and how the adults work together that makes the difference for children's learning. Many times we want to say it has to be a direct service right to that child. And there is that work. But the biggest impact is how the adults are working together. And the research tells us that over and over and over again. So multiple decades of telling us that. And then a more recent research also is Karen Chenoweth and her work around what makes districts improve, and collective teacher efficacy is one of those big levers. So to listen to you talk about your experience, I'm like a proud mom, having, my daughter just won a spelling bee kind of thing. So thank you. I want to thank my executive directors again for taking the reign and really leading this with so much energy and excitement, and walking into a field that they didn't even know exactly what was going to happen, but they have done it, and I can see that they see the benefit. I also want to emphasize that professional learning doesn't happen in a workshop somewhere. That's where you get your first kind of idea. But the real professional learning is in the classroom with the educators, with the students, how students are responding, and then what you're doing about that. And so the Q teams is the way to make that happen. And whether that's in the classroom setting, whether that's in the counseling office, during professional learning time, when your students are with specials, the importance of how that time is being used, the intentionality behind that, again, is an example of how powerful these Q teams are. And I've had other people in other districts say to me, Rachel, where did this model come from? Have you seen this other places? And I can say that I'm not sure if it's something that's happening nationally yet, but I do believe that Worcester is taking the lead in how to use existing resources, because I really want to emphasize that. The majority of the people on the Q teams were already in positions working in our district and working extremely hard. Everybody works so hard in Worcester, and not having the kind of impact that I think that they really wanted to have, and you heard that in what they're saying right now. Like, they feel their impact is going to make such a difference. So again, minimal fiscal impact on our budget, and we're already starting to see some outputs. And so I just want to close by saying this is the role of leadership. Leadership has to look and see, where are we at, and what can we become, and then how do we fill that? And the cabinet took on this role and really moved with it. We went back and forth. It took us about 6 months to get it in place. But the work that you're doing right now is going to make such a difference for our children, and we're only going to get better at that and make a difference for those who work for Worcester Public Schools, because it's not easy. And so the team really makes a difference. So with that, I turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions? Member Novick?
Just very briefly, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to note that one of the things that we pointed to us needing when we did the superintendent search was that we were really lacking that structural support for schools. And the role of the district in providing that, and it being organized, which is the word that kept appearing to my mind when I saw your charts, it actually being thoughtfully rolled out and integrated is something that was really lacking. And of course, we know that if the district isn't providing that to schools, then the schools have a much harder time providing that to their teachers in the classroom. And so I want to compliment not only you, Madam Superintendent, but also all of those involved. And by the way, the level of joy that's at the microphone tonight is really just wonderful to see. And I say that as a former teacher. There's clearly a lot of energy and excitement that's being brought to the table, which matters too. That it answers a real need that we saw in the district. And I really am appreciative to see that being met.
Thank you. Member Clancy, followed by Member Kamara.
Thank you. So I agree with Member Novick, and I don't know if you remember when I remember having a conversation in the same chamber about we were not reaching our students at the tier 1, tier 2 level, and we were going right to special education. And as Ms. Adamovich had pointed out, we're doing supports in tier 1 and tier 2 that we may not see immediately, but in the long run, we're going to see a huge difference in our students. And I really, truly appreciate you and the Q team for really listening. I mean, not that you were listening to me, but I'm just saying, like, because we knew we needed that. We needed those supports so that our students could thrive in the least restrictive settings. And I truly appreciate that. And also, as a community member in my day job, years ago we used to have the quadrant managers. And it was it was good. You knew how to reach, but now when there's someone or we need to reach somebody, if there's something going on, there's a person and we get immediate answers. And I know that was talked about also. There's no more waiting 5 days, 6 days to get answers. You get immediate answers, and it's been incredible. I know, as, like I said, a parent and a community member, it's just been truly awesome, and thank you to everyone here tonight.
Thank you. Member Kamara?
Thank you to the chair. I also want to say thank you to the administration, Rachel, and to all of you for your hard work. Someone mentioned how hard and difficult it is to lead people, and to have at least a structure to be able to help you in that, it's commendable. One of the questions I was going to ask, which member Clancy mentioned, was kind of to understand what we had before, and looking at the structure and that we have in place right now to kind of be able to differentiate how it's been able to progress. Your face is like, what? So I want that just for people who are listening, because I think sometimes it's we get these information, but sometimes it's not what was it before? And I understand before it was not all of this nice structures that we have here, but I would just like to understand that.
Absolutely, through the chair. I'll start, and then if any of you want to fill in, okay? So, as I said, the majority, and I'm going to say at least probably 80% of the staff already worked for us in the same role. So it may be a multilingual education coach or ed tech coach or our special ed supervisor. They reported to their department director. So if you're the multilingual education, you reported to your director of multilingual education, and then you were dispersed to schools, perhaps based off of a principal requesting it, or maybe you knew somebody, and you could be dispersed to any of our 46 schools last school year. So anywhere in the district. So imagine being a multilingual coach, for example, and you really have potentially 46 schools that you're supporting. In the quadrant model, now you have about 14 schools, and you have a team that work in the other areas, right, as they shared. So every department did it differently. We heard in ed tech, they actually already had put a quadrant model in place for ed tech last school year, but then they didn't have the others that they could also call on. So now they have not just they have their internal team of across within their quadrant, and then they still have their content expertise teams as well. Does that help understand? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is brilliant. This is a brilliant idea, because I know that I was at South High. I wish we had this model coming out of the pandemic, because I remember being at South High and talking to, one of the educators there, and they were talking about how coming out of the pandemic, a lot of teachers relied on one of the staff that is the instructional coach for a lot of social emotional, and was very tedious with having to deal with teachers' own mental health, and then having to be in the classroom and having that lack of support. So from that perspective, I think the question was, how can we support our educators? And I think this model also lends itself to that, and that's really incredible. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Mailman.
It is awesome to listen directly from the horse's mouth, and I mean that in a nice way. It is great to hear that. And we love listening to you, quadrant people, but this was really good. So I appreciate that you set this up so that we could hear it. And when I listen to presentations and everything, I think you guys absolutely acknowledge that, we're learning as we work through this, but I hope and I imagine there is some way we're documenting what's not working and what we're tweaking as we go forward. So it'd be kind of cool to hear at the end of the year maybe where that ended up. And I have one clarification, and I think the answer is yes, but I didn't quite understand. Is there an opportunity across the quadrants that you guys, weekly or monthly, or so that you're learning from each other?
Mr. Foley?
To the chair, Yeah, so on Fridays, the departments themselves meet together, and then following their meeting, the Q teams meet together. So the folks from each of these different Q team departments have an opportunity to meet together on Friday mornings, and then we meet together as Q teams on Friday afternoons. And we talk about any issues that may have come up at that departmental meeting and how they can be supported by other members of the Q team if they're specific to a school or if it's just a structural issue or.
And then does Burncoat meet with South?
Yes, so
Or Doherty Quadrant?
2 weeks ago, we had a full district Q team meeting where we went through a bunch of stuff, and our integrated coaches did a really great presentation for us, and the executive directors and myself, we did a little bit of a leadership piece. So, yeah. And then the other piece that I should have mentioned earlier that I remiss not to is one of the things that the Q team structure has done culturally is it allows for people to seek support without judgment.
Yep.
So our Q team members are being deployed into schools at the request of not just the principals, but people on the principals, leadership teams. One of the first things that we did, and it was mentioned relative to, was relationship building. So we asked our Q team members at the very beginning of the year, actually we asked the principals before the school year began, identify for us someone in your building who can be the contact person for Q team members in each of these departments, because we don't want you to have to be the only one that is being contacted by Q team members. Principals have enough to do, and that has worked really well. But it certainly hasn't precluded principals from reaching out to executive directors, certainly, or to Q team members directly and with asks for support, which I'll just say support without judgment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Johnson.
Thank you. I actually don't have much to say. Thank you all for being here and giving that insight. Thank you for the work that you guys are doing. Superintendent Monterey, same thing. I would just like to make a motion on this, actually. I would just like to make a motion to get a report back sometime at the end of the school year in regards to the summary that I'm looking at here. So when you're so I'm just a motion back on a report on this on a Q team support dashboard. So kind of what we'd be looking for is kind of based on a South Quadrant, whatever, how many times you've been out, is it collaboration, is it modeling or whatever, kind of the schools that you've been to, just so we could get a good idea on what schools you're responding to more, what they're looking for. So then, because when I read in here about budgetary things within the district or whatever, so when we're going into budget, that might be something we need to look at moving forward. So that'll be my motion moving forward. Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed, so ordered. Member Kamara?
Yeah. Can I ask my colleague, because so this is like a beginning point, and so you're asking for an end point. Is there a way maybe we can have a midpoint in that, or is it too much work, or do you prefer? Because sometimes I think like have a midpoint and then an end point rather than a beginning point to an end point. I don't know.
Madam Superintendent.
Through the chair, if I could just ask one clarifying question and then I could respond to yours. When you say report, Member Johnson, are you talking a report of the superintendent or a written report that I can file in general business? Because that changes, because we have all our report of the superintendent's already calendared.
Yeah, I'm talking about a report that you can file in general business.
Perfect. So, thank you. So I don't see there being a problem giving a mid, maybe we do it in, let's see, we do budgeting in, in May. So how about we bring one at the end of February? That would be a mid report, and then we can bring where we are at the end of May, so that when you go into deliberations in June, does that work? Yes?
If it works for everybody, yes.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
we can do that.
Okay, well said. So as amended, those in favor, opposed, so ordered. Thank you. I just want to thank all the speakers. You did a great job. Keep up the great work. And I remember speaking last year about this time, and the superintendent was here and said we're about a year or two behind where we want to be, and we're catching up. So keep it up. Great job. Thank you. is approving the file. Those in favor, opposed, so ordered. Next is consider approval of the minutes of teaching and learning student supports, meeting held on October 16, 2023. I guess we can approve that. Member Mailman?
As we head into the 7:10 hour.
I'm making money.
So, where does this one begin? Sorry. We had present in our meeting, Member Mailman, Chairperson McCullough, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Morse, Member Kamara, Will Foley, Sarah Karatzis. Item GB 2-201.1 was to review the availability of childcare for system educators in various positions and in various geographic parts of the city. Dr. Morse explained the work involved in the pre-planning process and the intention to implement for 25-26. Schedule is dependent on the formulation of a budget and funding availability. Member Mailman stressed the importance of connecting home care providers across the city into this pre-planning process. Member Kamara added that she hopes services can be provided as early as possible, and Worcester Public Schools align with the coalition and the City of Worcester plans. Chairperson McCullough made a motion to request the Standing Committee on Finance and Operations to consider developing a budget for implementation of child care services for future consideration. On a roll call of 3-0, both motions were approved. Second item is GB 3-109.1 to consider approval of the new course Unified Physical Education to be piloted at Burncoat. Mr. Foley informed the committee there are currently 17 Burncoat students enrolled in this program, and 11 are students with disabilities, and 6 are from the general education population. He had great excitement and was pretty excited about the beginning of this program. Member Kamara asked if it is anticipated the program will only be expanded within high schools and how the program would be implemented, and Mr. Foley responded that the administration will wait to recommend on that issue once the pilot is reviewed. He added that additional training would be needed for the implementation of the program in other schools. Member Kamara stated she looks forward to the evaluation of the pilot program. Chairperson McCullough made a motion to file. On a roll call of 3-0, the item was filed. GB 3-207.1 to consider approval of the vision of a learner. Dr. Morse reported updates have been made to the plan as recommended previously by Member O'Connell-Novick and Member Kamara and all members of the school committee. Chairperson McCullough stated how pleased she is that the goals will be measured along the way. Member Mailman questioned specifically how a timeline might be established. Principal Karatzis responded that it would be difficult to assign timelines to these skills as it all depends on some phases moving faster than others. Chairperson McCullough asked if updates for the vision of a learner will be provided over time in the report of the superintendent, and Dr. Morse confirmed that those will be broken down in parts and pieces that will be shared with the committee. Member Kamara mentioned the incredible work introducing content to various grades throughout the district. Chairperson McCullough made a motion to approve. On a roll call of 3-0, the item was approved. Thank you.
How's that? Those in roll call.
Member Clancy.
Yes.
Member Johnson.
Yes.
Member Kamara.
Yes.
Member Mailman.
Yes.
Member McCullough. Member O'Connell-Novick.
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes, next is consider the minutes of the Governance Employee Issues meeting held on October 23rd, 2023. Member Clancy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Standing Committee on Governance Employee Issues, October 23rd, starting at 4:30. Present was myself, Member McCullough, Member Johnson. From the administration was Dr. Menares, Deputy Superintendent Brian Allen, and Assistant Superintendent Marie Morse. We met that day to take up one item, which was GB 3-1431, which was to review the current standing committees and make any changes if necessary in light of the administration reorganization and upcoming structure changes to the Worcester School Committee after the 2023 election. The superintendent reviewed the 2 options that we had in our backup, and then she introduced a third option verbally that would align with the strategic plan. And the option 3 created 5 standing committees with as the following: finance, operations, and buildings, teaching and learning, wellness, family and community engagement, and policy. She spoke about these subcommittees being able to meet and having them align with the quarterly reports that would align with the strategic plan. Member McCullough and Johnson stated that they wish that they had more time to review and digest the third option. I had then made the motion requesting that the administration provide detailed information for the committee on this option 3 and how it would function and who would oversee the staffing of each of the standing committees. On a voice vote of 3-0, the motion was approved, and then I made the motion to hold the item, and on a roll call of 3-0, that item was held. And then we adjourned the meeting on a roll call of 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Novick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I realize we've sort of shoveled a lot of work governance's way recently, and I want to acknowledge that. As someone who doesn't serve on governance, I know you guys you've got a lot going on. I am cognizant, well, let me back up. I've said this before, but I think it's actually really important. One thing that I think has been a real strength of this committee has been the degree to which we have focused on our actual job. And so we've been about district governance, we've been about goals, we've been about the strategic plan, we've been about the superintendent's evaluation, we've been about the budget. We haven't gotten sidetracked into chasing down, ombudsman issues or what have you. And we had asked through governance for administration to come back with a structure, having worked with us now for 16 months or so, and having there been a reorganization of the administration that would work for them. And I was excited by the innovation that they brought forward in terms of the 2-committee structure. And I appreciate in particular the fact that they weren't dissuaded by the fact that it would end up with 2 even committees. As some of my colleagues are aware, school committees in Massachusetts that are 5-member committees, which is not an unusual structure, have 2-member subcommittees. And because all work of subcommittees comes back to the full body, which is an odd number, there isn't really an issue with ties, which I think sometimes we can get ourselves tangled up in. And so because there's a limited amount of time, and it's obviously crucial that the governance subcommittee have the opportunity to redraft the rules so that we're walking into the new term with redrafted rules. We can't put that off. There have to be new rules in place for the beginning of the year. I'd like to amend the report, Mr. Chair, and I'd make a motion for the school committee to adopt the 2-committee model in which each non-chair would serve on 1 committee, and then request that governance bring back to the full committee after their next meeting the redrafted rules that would have that in place, that we would need new language. That's my motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Member Clancy, you okay with that?
Yes, I am okay with that.
Okay. And Member Kamara?
Yeah. I have a question. So if you can use some clarification. So are we saying that governance is going to be drafting 2 different, a policy on 2 subcommittees? Is that what it?
Right now, we have 4 subcommittees, and we're going to combine those into 2. So 4 members will sit on 1 committee, and 4 members will sit on another committee.
Right. So
that
is
was
this
sort of
like,
in line with what the superintendent wants to do, and so we make the changes appropriate to what the superintendent, what she wants to do as her strategic plan, and how she wants to guide the school district going forward.
okay, so like the superintendent's idea is to have 2 subcommittees rather than 4.
It was one of a couple ideas, correct?
So are we putting it in governance to like evaluate that model, or we
Then
are?
right to suggest the rule would have 4 and 4 and come back with a thing we can vote on in the next, probably in December meeting or late November.
Okay, because like somehow I don't understand going from like 4, to 2 subcommittees alone, and how. So if this is about like us evaluating that process, like one option is to have 2 subcommittees.
Yeah.
Is that, so,
So right now, we have the option to suggest to do the 2 subcommittees. We can come back and we'll have a hearing on it, and they'll discuss it, and they'll bring it back to us with it in written, and there's 2 subcommittees. No? What was your motion?
My motion was to adopt that as our model and
Yeah.
ask.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll come back, so she's gonna put it in the, so Member Clancy will put it into the committee, we'll write into the rules, and the rules will be all voted on when we come back. And one of the adoptions tonight is to adopt the 2 committee, for the 2 subcommittees.
and those subcommittees are governance and,
I'm not sure what they're called, but Member Clancy?
So, thank you. So through the chair, it was a governance and F&O combined, and then the other one was more of the teaching and learning and the data information combined together. So it was 2 subcommittees. They were actually in the backup of our agenda item from the governance meeting.
was it the last meeting?
Our governance meeting, yeah, we all got the backup on the 2 proposals, and then the 3rd proposal was brought to, and I will say, through the chair, I do regret not making that vote at that subcommittee meeting. I think we had the 2 options, and we should have voted that night, so it's on us right now to
Okay.
vote on option 2, so thank you.
Okay, option 2, okay. All set?
I'm not upset with this because, so we're going from 4, so it would be more preferable if we had we already have the 4 models right now. It will be more preferable if we're looking at how that will look like with 2 models. So we have option this and that, and then we're voting, rather than, voting on something that is only 1 option. And so I understand some of the content or just, around this discussion. But actually, if I can ask you, what were some of the rationale around having the downsize, looking at with regards to the content of all the work? I understand certain subcommittees right now only meet ever so often, and there's 3 that meet more regularly than others. So I understand that piece, but to have only 2 subcommittees, that's the part that I'm stuck on. And then what is that leadership of those subcommittees? What does it entail? Because right now the chair of the subcommittees, the vice chair, from what it appears is there is no collaboration with anything. It's just the chair brings however that process is done, but there's no collaboration or even input. Even if we can do that in a great way with regards to the law, and we be within the law, and it almost appears as though folks are just on a subcommittee just to be on a subcommittee, and then to give, but there's no first hand or initial understanding or even input and collaboration on what comes on that agenda. And that's kind of where I stick on this, because we are all school committee members with equal power here, and to have 4 people sit on one subcommittee, and just, why are you there? What is the bulk? What is the input? What is the foundation of all of that work? So that's kind of where I'm stuck here with this.
Madam Superintendent?
Thank you, through the chair. So I appreciate some of I appreciate all of your comments. I think some of it is actually not in the superintendent's purview. I think it has to do with the school committee rules, especially as it pertains to the chair and the vice chair and how that works. So that's something that I hear, going back to governance, to take a look at the rules specifically to that piece. To your question on the recommendation on going from 4 to 2, 2 different options were, actually 3 options were brought forward, 2 in backup, 1 verbally. One option was to go to 5 committees, which would have 3 people on it, but as you know, we're going to have 9 members. Taking the mayor out of it, then that comes down to 8, and so dividing it up equally and in a way that everyone gets similar amounts is not mathematically possible. And so it then takes a recommendation that I said was, so if we have 5 subcommittees, then whoever was the vice chair would only serve on one. And that's something for the committee to consider. That's what was brought to governance. The other model, though, was to have these 2 committees. The benefit of having the 2 committees is some of it has to do with actual calendaring of meetings and finding times on the calendar that a subcommittee can actually meet. The more subcommittees we have, the harder it is to find time on the calendar for individuals to come together. So that's purely a logistic piece. On the administration side of the work, out of every subcommittee comes, what's the word I'm looking for? A workflow that the administration has to manage. And as we're trying to manage moving the district to this next level of excellence that we want to get to, and managing the workflow that would come out of 5 committees, that's a lot to manage. 2 makes it more palatable, if you will. One of the committees would then be overseen by Mr. Allen. That would be the finance, operations, and policy/governance one, which those 3 areas tend to really kind of live with each other on a regular basis anyway. And so that committee might need to meet twice a month, perhaps, to get the work done, but then they're not having to compete with 4 other committees that they're trying to find time on the calendar. The other one would be, of course, teaching and learning. We do believe that the assessment and the student performance should be tightly linked to teaching and learning. I think we could all agree on that. And so that would be overseen by Dr. Morris, the assistant superintendent. Again, there might be some times where they have to meet twice a month. But in terms of the efficiency, the flow of the work, and the balance of cabinet leading the district as well as working with school committee in our scope of a day and of a week and of a month. The second one, once I learned that we don't have to have odd numbers on the subcommittees, I thought we had to have odd numbers. Once I learned that, it's a preference to have the 2 for those reasons. Two subcommittees.
So I really thank you for your analysis. I really do. I am not in favor of this. We run a huge school district, and the same thing on the city side. We have a huge city, and I understand with the cities, staffing and council, they are much more than school committee because I get that part, but to narrow it down to 2, I understand 3 because I understand like TLSS and the assessment piece. Yes, the mirror. Governance is a whole nother ball game, and finance and operation is a whole nother ball game. I get that part, but to narrow it down to 2 subcommittees, only 2, and then now it changed the workflow of meeting times where twice. So I'm understanding twice a month meeting plus could. So I'm not in favor of this, and I already know I'm outvoted on this, but I'm going to still stand here and speak as a member of the school committee. That's my right to do that. I'm not in favor of this at all. And I understand the argument, but I don't think that it weighs. Maybe it does weigh on because we've been having this like 4 subcommittee structures for so many years, right? And yes, we have a new structure with regards to the number of people on committee. But what I'm going with this is that the previous structure with regards to the level of work and time that it would take for your administration to carry this on, that's been ongoing for so many years. So I don't see that as like in my own eye, a valid thing. Then for us to only narrow it down to 2, and then we have like now the meeting structure is like 2 meetings a month plus this, this school committee meeting. I don't see it. And how do we boil everything down to like governance and finance and operation? Well, you have TLSS and assessment. I mean, that it doesn't coordinate to me. It really doesn't. But I just can't.
Thank you. Member Millman?
Thank you. So I appreciate actually that we're having this conversation here and that we try to move things forward. What I think is hard, and I can relate to Member Kamara, is that some of the folks have had, Member Novick made a motion, so has clearly done some homework on this in the past. It's kind of a new, I didn't know we were going to discuss this tonight. I think governance had a meeting. I actually watched it because I was kind of interested in where we were going to go with this. And I was actually interested in what the administration had put forward as a proposal for the 5 committees that included, because the things I thought they included that we really, I guess they're going to fit in somewhere, but to call out wellness, which has been a huge part of what we've discussed over the past year, I think was a great idea. And the other one is family and community engagement. And that, I think, is like, that's what community wants, that's what, families want. So my preference when I listened to your meeting was what the superintendent had recommended for these new committees. And then I thought that it could just come to the floor and we could have this discussion right now. So the only thing that I think the way that it has been for us the last couple of years, I would say that there has been very little insight into open items, outstanding items, so that if you are not the chair, you don't really have a great grasp. Now, we're going to have a new clerk, and the clerk is going to come with a new system, and I'm sure we're going to get much more automated, and everything is going to be more in front of us. So part of me thinks that the issue of, I think everybody is going to have access to the information of what's out there in a much easier way than we do right now, because I concur with, I think what is part of your thing is like, we're just like the recipients. If you're sitting on one of these committees, you're the recipients of what gets put in front of you, and there's not an opportunity for input. If we had a system where we saw all the outstanding numbers and we had more of a relationship with our chairs of any subcommittee to say, how come this item's not coming forward yet? That would be a more proactive kind of thing to do. And I'm wondering if Member Novick would be interested in, because this has kind of sprung on a couple of us, and perhaps Member Johnson, he is in the committee. I wonder if Member Novick, if we could hold this until next week with and so that we can review the descriptions that you guys had in your subcommittee, but we didn't have before us, I'm sorry.
You all set?
Yes.
Member Novick?
So I'm not amenable to that amendment. And I would note, by the way, that the backup for the standing committees is sent to all of us at the time that it's posted. And there is a discussion of a subcommittee report is part of the posted agenda. And so this wasn't a surprise that this was coming forward this evening. I do think it's important that we give the governance, that we give both the administration and governance the amount of time that they will have prior to their meeting on the 23rd by deciding this evening. And I do want to emphasize again, 21st, sorry. There's not enough time, in other words, between the 16th and the 21st in order for that work to happen. And I do just want to emphasize again 2 things. First of all, that subcommittees of the school committee are subject to the open meeting law, which means that quorums cannot have a conversation. A quorum of a school committee, a subcommittee right now is 2. And also, Mr. Chair, that it is not the main job of administration to attend to subcommittee meetings of the school committee, as much as we may enjoy that. And I think it is incumbent on the school committee to defer to the administration in terms of their preference on this. I would note that as much as the current structure seems like it has been around for a while, it was created by Dr. Boone because she reorganized her administration to have 4 heads. And there was a chief accountability officer who answered to what was then the Accountability Standing Committee. There was a CFO for F&O, and so forth. There were 4 chiefs, and so there were 4 standing committees. That is not the structure of this administration. So to attempt to superimpose something else is really not fair to the administration. My motion, Mr. Chair, I would ask that it be voted as it stands, please.
Okay. Member Mailman?
Procedurally to the chair, is there a way then, could we have a presentation right now on the two committee structure? Because although it was in our backup 3 weeks ago for a committee that neither one of us sits on, I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, Member Clancy, you just want to give a quick review of the two committees, and so like 2 seconds.
I'd have to look up in my backup.
Okay. If you don't have any, superintendent have it. Yeah.
You should have. It's not part of this report. It's not part of this. Did you know that?
You have it?
I just clicked on it too.
We can't keep doing this because people are not. We have an item on the floor we can discuss.
So,
Member Clancy?
thank you. So through the chair, hold on one second. So yes, we were presented with 2 options. So option 1, which would be, that was the 5 subcommittees. So that one would stand with Finance and Operations. And then there was still the Governance and Policy Standing Committee. Employee Issues would be its separate subcommittee. School and Student Performance, and Teaching, Learning, and Student Supports. So option 1 only added the Employee Issues as its own standing committee. Option 2 was what we call the mega committees, which was the Finance, Operation, and Governance all together. So F&O and governance together, and that would be the administrator on that would be the deputy superintendent. The next one would be Teaching, Learning, Student, and Student Success, which was teaching and learning combined with school and student performance. So we were just combining the 2 together for the 2 mega standing committees, option 1 and 2.
Okay.
And then the option 3?
Just what she brought.
Yeah, so option 3, I have it right here. So option 3 would be the 5 standing committees, which was the other one with Finance, Operation, and Buildings, which would almost be the same as what they're doing now. Teaching and Learning. The 3rd would be a Wellness Committee. The 4th would be Family and Community Engagement. And then there would be a Policy Committee, which is Governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Mailman?
And where would family and community engagement fall? Would that fall into finance? Like, where would we put those kind of issues? Because it's a part of the strategic plan, I believe, right?
Through the chair, yes, family and community engagement will have its own a priority in the strategic plan. So is your question in the mega? Yes.
two subcommittee structure, like how do we get to highlight that work?
That would most likely go in teaching and learning, depending on what the topic is. I would say most likely it's going to be in teaching and learning because it's teaching and learning tends to be more school-based, curriculum instruction, that kind of, so that would go in there. If there's anything policy related, I would imagine that it would first get developed in the teaching and learning through a family and community lens and then gone to the other one for the actual adoption of the policy.
And so, Superintendent, through the chair, you had recommended, because I watched the meeting, you had recommended this 5-person structure.
The third option?
This structure that followed the strategic plan.
The third option, yes, that was
Yes,
one that I.
Which we just talked about, that has
Correct.
those two things that I think are big deals. So do you, so you still prefer option 2, or you're understanding that help me with that. I heard you recommend this. I don't know why we didn't bring it to the floor that time. Even if we held it another 2 weeks, it would be before a governance committee happened again. So I don't really see what the big deal is for holding it, so tell me why you've changed your mind about the 5 to the 2.
So.
Madam Superintendent?
Yes, through the chair. So it is mostly about the ease of managing the amount of workflow that will come out of the 5 versus the 2. We're going to have a committee that's going to have 9 individuals on it. That in itself, with a new clerk, that in itself seems like it shouldn't be difficult, but it is people who are going to be learning their role as school committee members and learning their role. So learning the role in this seat here, learning the role in subcommittees, learning what it means to be the school committee member representing a district, but still part of a larger committee, right? So there's these moving parts. And then add that to then what is the purpose, and as I'm still learning the purpose of a subcommittee, we didn't have subcommittees in California, so I'm still trying to figure out what's the best intention behind a subcommittee, best use of everybody's time. And that's where the more I thought about 9 individuals, 5 subcommittees, new clerk, it's a lot of new all at once.
Okay. So last comment, I promise, through the chair. So prior to, so nobody had moved forward on putting these, I think the committee wanted more explanation on these. No, we didn't move forward on that because we went back to this 2 item.
No, currently it's held, right? So it's held. I'm prepared to come back with the description on this option 3.
But you didn't know either, right? So, but you've changed your mind in terms of the 5 to the 2.
If I'm being asked which would I prefer, which
Yep.
I think that's what I'm being asked of tonight.
You are, yes, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, so from the administration perspective of managing all of this, I believe that we as a team can meet the need of keeping the committee and ourselves focused on the strategic plan through the 2-group model. Now I'm losing my words. The 2 subcommittee model.
Okay.
Because family and community engagement's not going away. That's going to be a priority. So we will make sure that is in front of the committee because it's in front of us. And we can do that through the 2-committee model.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Member Kamara?
Thank you. I'm really upset. I'm so upset with this entire thing here. So, and here's why I'm upset, because the area of focus for finance and governance, those are 2 separate things. Then you have teaching, learning, and student support, and then you have the assessment. Those are, even though they are very separate, you can't combine them because they are one in the same. And then you also have other ideas with regards to, the family and community engagement, and so I'm just hard to understand, how do we go from a robust idea to 2 things that fundamentally does not even, to me, it just doesn't, I cannot see it. And I cannot also see it because it feels like, yes, if we have a backup of this from our prior meeting, I think, again, and this, every time we do this here, I would prefer if we have ideas, we bring it to the floor and we discuss it. This is a discussion here. We bring it to the floor and we discuss it. Not for me to hear that, I have to now approve or vote on something that, it's only one option. that we would like to move forward. And like I said, again, we have a huge school district and we have a lot of content. So I actually enjoy the subcommittees. And from what I have learned is on those subcommittees are where we do the bulk of the talking. You get to enjoy the content, people ask questions, and that is the meat of the entire school committee. Those contents are, while we are relieving some support for your administration, it adds now, the time commitment adds on to us school committee members. And I'm not in any way, shape, size, or form disputing or saying that I don't have, or any other member won't have the time to sit on these meetings twice a month or however long that they're going to take. But also, that's people's time. And for me, frankly, I like to see things on the paper structurally, how it's going to be done, and if we're going to be from 2 meetings in a month to 1 meeting in a month, plus our whole committee meeting to 2. I need to see things structurally, and there's no structure here at all. I don't see any structure, and there is nothing at all. And quite frankly, the rationale I'm still gripping with it because it just does not make sense. Governance, the amount of work you have to do in governance, that's an area of focus that we need to be focusing on by itself. And the level of work and understanding finance and operation, and if we care about all the other school committee members, which I'm pretty sure they are all vibrant and educated people that are going to come on here and jump on board and get it and work to either work with the chair, our clerk, or find someone to get that information, or go take a session like we all did, because I was also new too. I'm new to this entire thing. So, and most of us are new to this, and it's like we jumped on board and we came and learned. So I don't even see that I don't find that rationale to be strong enough for that to be like, a content level, something that we're adding to discussion, because we are elected. We go through the hard work to be elected, to come and sit here and to enjoy what we're doing, not to be fast-paced in things and then double booking people for different things. For me, I enjoy the content of stuff. And for me to sit on one or have 2 subcommittees where we're breeze passing things or breezing through things, it's for me, it's unacceptable with the level of work that we have to do to move this district forward. So I don't understand where any of this came from, or who is influencing anything here, but the fact that I even have to stand here is problematic for me. It is.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor is to take, what do you call, option 2?
Yes.
And from Ms. Novick, and I know we've had the information in front of us. I know in the city council, we took committees, we had 20 committees, and we cut it down to 10, just to make sure it was working with the city manager. And I just want to take the option. I think the superintendent's original recommendation was option 2, but we thought at that time we couldn't have an even number of people on the committee to make it work. So that has since changed. So we're going to have a motion on Member Novick's motion. We have a vote on Member Novick's motion. Roll call.
Member Clancy.
Yes.
Member Johnson.
No.
Member Kamara.
I disapprove this.
So yes or no?
It is a no.
Member Mailman.
Yes.
Member McCullough. Member O'Connell-Novick.
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes.
The motion passes 4-2.
Okay. Okay. Go back to the agenda. Oh, we have to approve the minutes yet?
She amended the minutes.
Oh, that was on the motion. Now we have to approve the minutes. Roll call.
So to approve the minutes as amended. Member Clancy.
Yes.
Member Johnson.
Yes.
Member Kamara.
No.
Member Mailman.
Yes.
Member McCullough. Member O'Connell-Novick.
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes. Consider approve the minutes for the Finance and Operations meeting held on October 24th, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Finance and Operations met on October 24th. Present were myself, Member Mailman, and Member Kamara online. We first took up GB 3-202-1, which was to consider the wage increase for CNAs and LPNs. I want to thank administration for going out and doing homework to compare us to urban districts across the state, in which we discovered that we are more than competitive, I guess would be the right way of putting it, which is a nice thing to find out. And so with that report that was discussed at the meeting, we made a motion to file that item at the committee. We also had a brief conversation with regard to staffing, which did outlay for us the discussion that we had started to have already about having full-time nurses at every school, something that Vice Chair Kamara in particular had brought forward as a priority that obviously Member Clancy had also helped us with in terms of our budget transfer. And so we had a conversation regarding the move forward. Of course, there is a nursing shortage, and there is work going on with the substitute nurses pool in terms of providing for that. So in a roll call of 3-0, both of those items were filed. Under GB 2-92.13, which was the quarterly facilities report, we got a special report that specifically was on the HVAC work that we're doing with about $22 million in ESSER funding. And if you didn't actually see the amazing slideshow that was put together, I highly recommend it because you've never seen so many boilers and other pieces of equipment. This is one of those investments that we make that matters in terms of the health of our buildings and then ultimately the health of our students and our staff that is kind of invisible because most people, I think strangely, don't go visit boiler rooms when they go visit schools. And so we had an update about that in terms of the improvement of air quality, in terms of efficiency, and so forth and so on. And the one concern, of course, that continues to make headlines is whether or not the ESSER funding is going to be expended in time. We were able to confirm that it is going to happen. And we did hold the item because that's the quarterly facilities report. And then we reviewed the FY23 budget for the close of the fiscal year. I do want to just commend our budget director, Sarah Consalvo, and her team, because this was a budget close that they managed while they were also managing the change of the system, which was a challenge. And I think that that's one of those slightly invisible things that we need to make sure that we commend. So we did receive that report and we made a motion to file. And then this year, GB 3-195.1, which was to review the status of the FY24 budget and make appropriate transfers. We did have the cost center by cost center rollout that we have in terms of where things are happening. We did, among other things, learn that we've actually now run into the out-of-district tuition conversation that so many of our colleagues were having, and also had a conversation about charter school reimbursement, which I think we're probably going to hear more about. As a result of some of the things that we're seeing so far in the year, on the recommendation of administration, we did make a motion to transfer, and I do want to amend the minutes just to include the account numbers because I know that the city needs those to actually make the budget transfers. So if you'll forgive me, I'm actually going to read those because this is actually what we need to vote. I'm making a motion on the recommendation of the Finance and Operations Standing Committee to move $600,000 from account 500-91115, which is paraprofessional salaries, to 500-9-1110. Did I say 5 in the first one? To administrative salaries. And then $600,000 again from paraprofessional salaries, which is the 500-9-1115, to the account tuition, which is 500-132-92000. So that's moving money in order to make sure that we're covering things accordingly. And I can put that in writing if it's more helpful, Mr. Clerk. And with that, the meeting adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so Member Johnson?
Yes, I'm sorry. To the chair, I'm sorry I missed that Finance and Operations meetings because typically I do like to weigh in because that's my job and my responsibility still when I'm not on the subcommittee to watch and weigh in on matters, but I missed this one. In regards to the transfer, we're transferring to from the paraprofessionals to the administration and vice versa. For what reasons? Can someone share that to the chair? That might come to Mr. Allen.
Through the chair, so what we've seen so far during the first quarter is a greater than expected out-of-district special education tuition cost. We had 14 additional students move into the district that have out-of-district placements. The savings is coming from the paraprofessional line item, but it's not reducing any positions. It's really through the current vacancies accrued through the first quarter and an estimate of when those positions will be filled. The expectation is we continue to work to fill all of those positions, but that's the accumulated savings we've essentially achieved to date, moving it over to special education out-of-district tuition.
Thank you. That's what I need to know. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So we'll take these, Member Mailman?
Quick clarification, aren't those normally part of our minutes? Don't we usually see a chart in the minutes?
Yes.
Okay,
And
so
that's why
next time they would be part of the minutes?
I'm making an amendment, exactly. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now we'll take on a roll call, with the minutes of the meeting plus the two finance items of $600,000 each. Roll
Thank you,
call.
Mr. Mayor. Member Clancy?
Yes.
Member Johnson?
Yes.
Member Kamara?
Yep.
Member Melman?
Yes.
Member McCullough? Member O'Connell-Novick?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes. Next is N, approval of these grants and other finance items. We can take these quickly on a roll call unless anybody has any questions. Roll call.
Member Clancy?
Yes.
Member Johnson?
Yes.
Member Kamara?
Yes.
Member Melman?
Yes.
Member McCullough? Member O'Connell-Novick?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes. We are on O, general business, to consider review of the Worcester Public Schools mission and vision statements to develop the Worcester Public School core values with the strategic planning task force. The motion is going to refer to governance. Prior to doing so, Member Novick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if we can recast the language a little bit here. And I'm saying that only because I know that administration is sensitive to the notion of community engagement. It's been one of the core priorities of everything that we've seen. But I'm wondering if there's some way to actually include that in the motion, just so that we are all sort of being very clear from here that we're intending this to be flowing from the community more largely than the strategic planning task force. With the strategic planning task force, with the community via the strategic, I'm wondering if we can add a word or two there, please.
Madam Superintendent.
Through the chair, I'm trying to figure out how we would word that. I know process-wise, we plan on.
So what if we said to consider with the community the review of, and then just went from there? And mostly this is more intended as a statement of principle on behalf of the school committee and the administration, just so that everyone understands that that is really our intent.
That would be fine.
Thank you.
Okay. So send that as amended to the governance. Those in favor, opposed, so ordered. Request administration review and update, if needed, the district's search policy. That's Member Clancy.
As it reads.
We're going to refer that to governance.
Yes.
All those in favor, prior to doing so, Member Mailman.
Could I ask for further clarification about what in our, what the chair would like to see amended? Why file this item? I'd like some transparency around that, please.
I just want to see if if we need to start looking through the administration, if there's anything that we may need to update. It's very vague, our search policy right now, so I just want to see, with the recommendation of administration, working with our principals.
Okay, so you're concerned that our policy is vague for
That's my
searches?
concern. That's why I'm working with the administration to see if we need to update it.
Would it, then should it go to administration?
So they'll bring it back to governance.
Okay.
So they'll do all the work, they'll do the core of the work, and then they'll bring their recommendation of the policy back to governance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So refer that to governance. Those in favor, opposed, so ordered. Now, to ensure that flagpoles at Worcester Public School buildings are in working order and ensure the proper protocols being followed, additionally consider the solar pole lighting as accessible, applicable / necessary. Refer to finance and operations. As it reads, roll call. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. So with that, we have the member motion to adjourn. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered.